10 years ago, I released my first album. It was called Acoustic Covers Volume 1, and it consisted of 11 tracks, but I never actually intended to make it an album, or make an album. There were times where I would just be sitting in my room and I think, you know what, I want to have a jam on my guitar. So grab my guitar, start playing. I'd pick a song from the hundreds of bookmarked Ultimate Guitar tabs and chords that I've got, and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to play that right now. And I'd jam that out. And I would sort of go through the performance of it, and once I was done, I would just be sat there for a second like, I really enjoyed that. I really like how that sounded. You know what? I might record that. And so I did that kind of 11 times. It was not an intention to make a lot of songs. It was an intention just to be like, I'm going to do this song now. And that was it. And so about 10 and a half tracks later, I might make an album out of all these. I had a little look and thought, yeah, I've got enough for like your average album length. I'll finish Soldier of Fortune, so that'll make 11 tracks. And boom, Bob's your uncle, there it is. And luckily at the time as well, I'd been up to a place called Castle Dinas. It's these castle ruins in Llangollen in Wales. And I'd been up there with a friend. We took a load of photos as like promo shots. Never intended to use them for the album, but yeah, I just had those and thought, there you go, got myself some artwork. And here is the album that I actually made. Here's the album artwork. This is the original one that I made. You can sort of tell from the editing style that I wasn't very good at, well, editing, because my arm looks ill, to quote a friend. But here's the new one. Because since I'm actually now re-releasing this first album, it's going to be called Acoustic Covers Volume 1 Revisited, because I'm literally revisiting it, because I also went up to Dinas Bran 10 years later to get that photo, to sort of recreate the artwork. It is a fantastic place to be. It's beautiful, beautiful views, and it's also just awesome seeing this this castle ruin. So why did I actually want to re-release these albums? Because, well, the first two aren't available anymore. For a very simple reason, perfectionism. That's kind of the overarching thing to say. To be more detailed about it, when I released the first album, I was like, cool, there's an album. I've done an album. I've done a thing. Then after a certain amount of time, I started to stop recording stuff and sort of lost the sort of drive. Because now that I've done that album and released it and sort of looked upon my release, looked upon my work, my creation, I started getting these feelings of, should have done that better. Ooh, I wish I'd done this differently. I wish I'd not done that. And those sort of feelings sort of stayed with me for a while. Sort of just bubbling in the background. Till eventually I thought I might try and do a second album. The second one, also, again, like I said, not available either. Also, re-releasing that was very hard to do. It was a very difficult, very anxiety-inducing and stressful album, because I was pushing against this sort of anxiety, these feelings of like, I really don't want to do this, but I pushed against it and just carried on. And you think, well, why do it then? No one's making you do it, other than myself. But the anxiety was because I wanted to try and get this second album to be perfect, to make sure it didn't have any of the flaws the first one did. And that's the problem. Because when I made the first one, I wasn't thinking about an album. Like I said, I did individual tracks when I felt like it. I wasn't making an album at the time, but the second album, I was making an album. And I was trying to make it perfect, free of flaws. And that's why it was so difficult to do. And then the same thing happened when I released that. I had the same feelings of like, should have done that differently, I'll try and do that differently, I'll try and fix this, or maybe I shouldn't have done that. But here's the thing, I was learning. None of it was going to be perfect, and perfection is kind of impossible. You can't really make anything perfect. There'll always be something, quote unquote, wrong with something you make. But that's kind of part of it. It's not meant to be perfect, and you use those failures to then try and improve upon the next thing you make. And yes, the second album was something I was trying to do in a way that it didn't have the flaws of the first one, but then it had its own flaws. So, yeah, looked upon those albums and thought, not good enough, delete. The same goes with some of the videos as well that went along with these covers. You'll find, if you go on my YouTube channel, that not all of the songs from the first and second albums are still on my YouTube channel. Catch the Rainbow's gone, Harvest Moon's gone. But fast forward to now, 2024. And a lot has changed since I made those 2 albums. A lot has changed. Let's get back on the horse. Let's start doing more stuff again, and let's revisit these songs, remaster the first one, mildly remix and remaster the second one, because the first one I recorded the entire thing in Logic. And while I could recover those Logic projects and all the stems, because I used a mate's MacBook to get those files, I really, I couldn't be bothered to just restructure them in a different DAW. Like, I really couldn't be arsed. I started working on a rose tattoo and I was like, fuck this. Just started pulling all the stems together in Mixcraft, which is the audio workstation I use now for Windows. And I was just like, fuck, I really can't be arsed. Just, nah, I don't want to do that. Right, I still have all the original sort of exports from Logic. Bring those into Mixcraft. I'll individually mix them or give them a quick remixing or remastering, essentially mastering them again. And then that's what the first album is. It's a revisiting, it's technically a remastering. It's also 1 song less because I've removed Harvest Moon from this, not for perfectionistic reasons, but for a very valid reason actually. When I listen back to it, my acoustic is very obviously out of tune. Which is very frustrating because I really like how I've done that, especially the harmonica performance in it. Yeah, it's slightly annoying, but it is what it is. And now also the second album, Acoustic Covers Volume 2 Revisited, which is what the artwork looks like here. I would compare it to the old one, but I don't know where that is. I have no idea where that's gone. Probably deleted it a long time ago, but yeah, I can't even find it anywhere online. It's gone. But from what you see there, that's the closest to what I remember it looked like, I think. So yeah, that's the second one. That's also going to have 1 more new song on it, so that's now 11, so they've sort of swapped track listing numbers. That's got 11 tracks on it because I've now added a song called In Quest For, which is an Avantasia song.
And no matter how I try, I feel my eyes seem to stay blind. No use in analyzing.
So I did an Avantasia song on the first album, which was called Inside. Now I've done another one. I recorded this one well after the first album had been released, but I think around the time I was gearing up for the second one. Yeah, did the same thing to that. That had been recorded in Logic, so I gave that a quick sort of remastering, and that's going to go on there because I quite like that one. And the other tracks on that album as well will be sort of semi-remixed and remastered because I did the second album using Mixcraft because I still have that and I still have access to the stems and the projects. So both those albums will eventually be available very soon. I will be posting more at some point soon. I'm not rushing myself, I'm taking my time. There's also other things in my life I'm trying to sort of work on and stay on top of, so, you know, all of my time is going to go towards my music. But I would like to start posting more. I am going to start posting more, but it'll be a very, like I said, a slow sort of push out of things. That's pretty much the story behind my albums, all 2 of them. They'll be available on Bandcamp. They'll also be available on Spotify, on Deezer, on Tidal, on a few other major platforms. Due to sort of cover licenses, I think, is it called mechanical license, I think? They aren't available in the US, Canada, Mexico, Pakistan, and India, I think. So, because that would cost me money, and I don't want to pay that. Because the service I'm using, I can post all these albums for free just because I'm losing about 25% of the profits from them, which I don't really care about. I'm not doing this to make money. And so to keep costs down, I can't really release those things there. As well as being available on all those platforms I mentioned, it's also going to be available as individual tracks on YouTube in the form of visualizers, which I'm really happy with how they look. Those are linked in the description as well as playlists. So, you know, if you use YouTube Music, I think you could probably use that to listen to them as well if you prefer that, so that's cool. But, you know, if you don't want to listen to them, that's fine. Genuinely, I just did them because I like doing them. I'm at a point now where I don't want to make stuff just to get like the sort of the approval of an audience. I want to make things because I enjoy making them. And then the approval thing, I suppose that's something you can't help but, like, you know, feel driven to try and achieve. But I'm going to try and keep that shit locked down where it's not in the driver's seat, but it's like, you can't get away from it, can you? So it probably is going to sit in the passenger seat more than likely. All the stuff's in the description. They'll be available hopefully when these videos come out. I will be wanting to release more stuff. Knowing what I know now about sort of why I struggled with those 2 albums, the anxiety and the stress of making the second one, the perfectionism and the sort of the criticism I gave myself of both albums once they've been done, and also all the sort of experiences that I've gone through since recording and releasing both those albums in life. I now have a better understanding of myself, a better understanding of my mental health and feelings of sort of potentially low self-esteem that contributes to those feelings of perfectionism and sort of intense self-criticism. So with that said, I like to think that going forward, I will start releasing more stuff, and if it's not perfect, who gives two fucking shits? So that's it. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you lasting this long into the video if you have. Check the description for everything I mentioned, and to sort of end things, here is just a little sort of compilation of more of my shots of Dinas brands and photos and videos. It's a lovely place. I'll put like a thing on screen right now to show you where it is in the UK. Thank you for watching, and see you later.